I'm becoming concerned about Johnny Manziel. I saw him at the NBA Finals. I'm a fan of his. I root for him. I certainly think that he's been dealt a bad hand in terms of some of the things that have been thrown in his direction and the way he's been excoriated in the public eye from time to time. But at the same time, you know, even though I'm not interested in hearing about kids are watching because I get tired of that being thrown out and sometimes that could be overblown. How about this notion? You're a professional athlete right now with something to prove. You don't need to be going out there. I don't look at Johnny Manziel as somebody who's partying. To me, that's entirely different than somebody who seems to wear this attitude on his sleeve that I'm going to buck the system and do what I want to do, when and how I want to do it. That as long as I play and show up to work on time, y'all get out my face. It doesn't quite work that way on the professional level, particularly when it comes to the National Football League. Now, I don't want to be hypocritical here because I have been on the record in the past saying I detest how the NFL feels they should have ownership over people's lives that are playing in the league. I have a problem with that. I go the route of Kerry Williams of the Philadelphia Eagles when they tried to make a big deal about him not showing up to voluntary workouts last year. But there is a difference between a consummate professional who was a Super Bowl champion, who's about handling his business, saying that the word voluntary is there for a reason and it shouldn't be an issue, and to Johnny Manziel, who is essentially finding himself in situations where there's this public evidence of his maverick kind of mentality. It's the kind of thing that I think ultimately would be count against him. And even though he's quick to say they're going to come at him like that anyway, they've been coming at him like that anyway, you can't sit there in the same breath acting this way and call LeBron James somebody you idolize and look up to and you receive counsel from, because I got news for you. LeBron James is the greatest player in the world with 4 MVPs and 2 rings. And we've never seen pictures of him like we've seen of Johnny Manziel.
Stephen A., I have absolutely no problem with his Johnny being Johnny partying behavior. It's part of his psyche. It's what sort of propels him. It's the edge that he has on the field that he displays, not to a fault, but he displays it off the field. Now, very seriously, I've said this before on the show. What I do have big concern about is Johnny and alcohol. I do not know the circumstance of this video, as Kerry just pointed out. But in it, I can't help but say it looks like Johnny might have had a couple drinks. And do I need to reiterate? People from his inner circle have told me they're a little concerned about Johnny and alcohol. His incidents in the past seem to have been alcohol-fueled. The fight he got into in his first year at Texas A&M that had him, threw him into jail for a night. Going to the fraternity parties at the University of Texas and risking life and limb there. I'm sure he'd had a couple of drinks. I have reported that I was told the Houston Texans cooled on him before the draft because they asked him to lay low, and he wound up at the Masters, albeit with his father and his uncle, but it looked like he had a few too many at the Masters, and it was a little embarrassing, and the Texans didn't like it. Wright Thompson wrote about Johnny and alcohol in his great ESPN The Magazine piece. It just concerns me that again and again, it looks like Johnny has some issues with alcohol. Again, I have it in my family background, and I'm the first to admit maybe I overreact to this. But Stephen A., do you think it's okay for me to at least voice my concern about this publicly?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, I do, because I think it's something that Johnny has to be mindful of. First of all, if you're a professional athlete, I don't know one professional athlete that could legitimately look anybody in the face and says alcohol helps them perform better, it keeps them in peak condition, etc., etc. No, it's a vice that you don't mind as long as you don't use in excess because it stimulates you to some degree. But the fact of the matter is it does nothing to help you as a professional athlete. It does nothing. So if it's one thing to do it, it's another thing to be unapologetic with your use of it.
Yep.
Not to mention the fact that you've given the impression that you have no intent on simmering down, changing, or whatever the case may be. And so again, I'm a fan of Johnny Manziel's. I like him a lot. I root for him. I will continue to do so. But at the same time, he does need to chill.
Yep.
He really, really does. Because I got news for him. I could sit there and say he made it because getting to the NFL is an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. But according to Johnny Football, making it ain't, I mean, that was a given. Being a star on the next level is what his goal is what your belief for him, Skip, is. And I don't see how anything that he does supports him ultimately accomplishing that goal. And if it doesn't support it, then what you need to do is step back and make the necessary sacrifices to be great. Greatness is, part of it is God-given.
Yep.
The other part of it is you appreciating what God gave you and making sure that you put forth the necessary effort to make sure you maximize that potential.
I am so with you on this one, and I just hope that our discussion reaches Johnny's ears. I know he watches the show. And, Johnny, it's all constructive criticism. We are both pulling for you.